If the nations knew in advance that a giant asteroid was coming and we had 3-4 weeks notice, what would we do? What would the world reaction be? We've got all these differences, you know, China, USA, Europe, Russia, the Cold War. At times we'd be mortal enemies. Could we come together? Could we come to agreement? Could we unite? Could we do something to prevent the world? Could we join together against a space attack? If an asteroid was to come, do we have the nuclear capability? We've seen the movies. In the movies, they all get together and they shoot off an atomic weapon and they make this asteroid veer off into another direction. Seems wonderful, doesn't it? At one time in the future, we know that the nations will unite all their power under one leader on this earth. Revelation chapter 17 tells us in verses 12 and 13 that 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received the kingdom, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings. 1 hour, just a very short season, with the beast. And these have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So this beast-type leader at the end times will be given power by 10 reigning powers. And we've already had that happen in the fulfillment of Daniel, but there is an end-time beast that has 1 hour of power, uniting all the earth together. And with all the fear that we see on CNN and on television and in the movies, the nations are already conditioned to fight aliens. What is an alien, by the way? I've heard of Mexican aliens. Have you heard of aliens?
Yeah, they live in the U.S.
Aren't there people Mexican aliens that live in the U.S.? So they're people from another place that supposedly don't belong. I wonder if we'll ever be considered aliens. But fear of space invasions could unite the nations. And how will it start? It could start something like this. We could have massive alien abduction, where they come and they take all kinds of people off the earth. How about that? Is that possible? They talk about that in the movies, but that is really a counterfeit. What we will see is the real Bible story. What does the Bible say is going to happen in the future? Luke chapter 21 and verse 25 tells us that there will be signs in the heaven, that the seas and the waves will be roaring to the point where ships won't even be able to sail in them. And at that time, we'll see the sun and the moon smitten. You find in Revelation chapter 6 and verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it rolled together, and every mountain and island fled away and were moved out of their places. And so, what happens as these heavens are departed like a scroll is this great dark cloud coming down. Jesus told his disciples in John 14:2, I go to prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. And Jesus will return with those many mansions. Can you imagine that great house of God descending through a great fissure in space with the sun and the moon darkened? Every eye shall see it. But what will the nations think? From the clouds, from a cloud itself, we'll see one like the Son of Man. Revelation 14:14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud One sat like unto the Son of Man, having in his hand a golden crown. Sorry, having on his head a golden crown, and on his hand a sharp sickle. So he has one single crown on his head, and in his hand the harvest tool. As the harvest is about to start from the clouds down. And we know that there's been a time that all the dead in Christ have been asleep. It tells us many times in 1 Thessalonians 4:13-17. I can get a little better light on this, I'll read it to you. I would not have you to be ignorant concerning them which are asleep. And I'm just transposing this. If we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. We which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with the shout and with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. The Bible is very clear. The Bible tells us that there are those who are asleep. They're in the grave. They're in the bottom of the ocean. They're in many different places where men and women have died. And they remain there waiting for Jesus to come with his harvest tool as the reaper and king of saints. One crown, that he may catch them all up to this cloud. It says we will meet him where?
In the air.
In the air. Not in heaven. Not in the third heaven per se, but in the sky itself, in the clouds. It's no wonder some come up with this idea that when we die we go to the clouds, because the Bible actually says we'll eventually be in the clouds with Jesus. But we don't go until the trumpet sounds, until he calls us. That's when we go. We find also in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 51 to 52, that he shows us a mystery that we shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment. And in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. In the twinkling of an eye, those remaining when he comes will be transformed and changed and caught up to that cloud. Imagine that great catching up, that great reaping from all the places on the earth.